Good evening and welcome to this South East Area Planning Committee on 13th of October 2021. My name is Councillor Vanessa Bell and I'm Chairman of this committee. Members, the set-up for the meeting has been designed to mitigate for COVID. Therefore, can I ask all present to work to the protocols agreed at Council on 2nd of September 2021 in the interest of members and officers' safety. We're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. Members and officers, during each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak, and I will invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones, as we have seen by my epic fail at the beginning of the meeting. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Finally, can I draw your attention to the notices on the agenda papers regarding the different levels within the chamber and advise that the fire exit is the door behind this top table. Item 2, apologies for absence. May I have the apologies, please, Bernard?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received an apology for absence from Councillor Skeens.
Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Channer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just say if I leave the meeting at any stage and don't return, it's nothing personal or anything you've said. Just give a forewarning in case I need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Channer, of course. Item 3, minutes. It is recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on 15th of September 2021, found on pages 7 to 16, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Boyce. Thank you. Does any member wish to raise any matter of accuracy? No? Lovely. Can we agree those by assent, members, please? Agreed. Thank you. Marvellous. Item 4, declarations of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests, or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraphs 6 to 8 inclusive of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. Any? Councillor Stan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just that I'm a member of Essex County Council, which are consultees on some of the applications.
Thank you. Councillor Jewett.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Agenda item 7, the applicant is an occasional customer of mine. I don't think it's prejudicial, but I will leave the room nevertheless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jewett. Members, I'll take that as all. Thank you. That brings us on to item 5, 20-01191 full, which is Hall Farm Road, Southminster, Essex. And this can be found on pages 17 to 34 of your agenda pack. Presenter is Catherine Matthews. So if I could hand over to you, Ms Matthews, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. So this is an application for a change of use of Southminster Hall to a mixed use, providing a wedding ceremony room, residential use, and the change of use of Southminster Hall grounds to provide a wedding venue to include siting of marquee and toilets, ancillary parking, and conversion of an outbuilding to an ancillary bridal suite. So this slide shows the location of the application site, which is in the rural area to the south of Hall Road and to the east of the settlement of Southminster. The site currently accommodates a residential dwelling and associated land. To the north, the site on the opposite side of Hall Road is Pandole Wood, an open countryside. To the east is land and buildings also owned by the applicant. To the west is Golsham Road, and to the south are existing buildings in commercial use. Southminster Railway Station is just over 200 metres to the west, with the centre of Southminster beyond. There are residential properties in the vicinity of the site, and a later slide will show you where the nearest ones are. The existing vehicle access to the site is from Hall Road, and that will be retained and used as part of the development. So this slide, you can see where Southminster railway station is for those who don't know Southminster. This is an aerial photo showing the application site, Golsand Road here and Hall Road along the northern boundary, and the existing dwelling at Southminster Hall. This is a proposed block plan, so this shows where the marquee would be positioned, where the toilet facility would be provided, the building that would be converted into a bridal suite. We've got a small part of the existing dwelling to be used as a ceremony room, and you've got the car park area proposed to the west with the access point on the northern boundary there. So these are it's an illustrative parking layout just to demonstrate how many spaces that could be provided within that space. They have shown 90 in that space there. There would be a one-way system around, there would be a one-way system around the car parking for taxis to use. And this also includes a swept path analysis, which shows how vehicles would enter and leave the site. This information was only received yesterday. The Highways Authority have been reconsulted on the application, and they have since, it was too late for the update unfortunately, but they have now recommended approval, raised no objections, subject to conditions. And this plan, as I mentioned earlier, shows the location of the nearest existing residential properties. So we've got 3 residential properties here to the south, and the other nearest ones are these on Hall Road up here. And this 20 Hall Road is based on the advice of the Environmental Health Officer, the residential property or residential occupiers that are most likely to be affected by potential noise from the wedding venue. So this is the ceremony room, showing the it's just an existing room within the house, and then on the left hand side there is the proposed layout of the bridal suite, which would be 2 bedrooms and a living area and a kitchen. So these are existing proposed elevations of the bridal suite, so very little in terms of changes there to the appearance of the existing building. We've got images, an example of what the marquee is intended to look like, and the toilets, and some photos of the house, as the hall there, the building that's going to be converted to bridal suite, and we've got some more distant photos, which these were provided by the applicant, showing the position of the marquee, with Hall Road there on the left-hand side on the top photo and the right-hand side on the bottom photo. Just to mention that Specialist in Heritage and Conservation has raised no objections, and the existing vegetation would help to screen the marquee and the parking from public view. So in conclusion, the proposal would result in economic benefits for the local area and the district. No objections are raised to the principle of the development. It will not cause material harm to the character and appearance of the area as a result of the marquee and parking area proposed. Furthermore, the proposal will not have a harmful impact on this locally listed building or its setting, and subject to the imposition of conditions would not have a materially adverse impact on the immunity of local residents. No objections are raised in relation to highway safety, access and parking. And maybe this is an opportunity just to highlight the conditions that are recommended by the Highways Authority, and so that requires the reconstruction of the field access as shown on those drawings that I said have been received yesterday. So that's requiring a width of at least 6 metres, and there'll be no obstruction above 2.4 metres, so a parallel band visibility display either side of the access, and the final one will be no unbound material used in the first 6 metres of the access from the highway. And on that basis, officers recommend that plan permission is granted, notably only for a temporary period. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Matthews. Now, we do have a public participant for this planning application. So in line with the public participation scheme, I now invite the agent, Ms Jennings, please, to read out your submission. And may I remind you that you are allocated 2 minutes in accordance with the scheme. So whenever you're ready, Ms Jennings. Start the clock.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't take up much of your time as Catherine has already provided a clear summary of the proposal. Southminster Hall is an imposing Victorian farmhouse, but it is in need of significant works to maintain it. The main driver behind this project is the need to generate an income to fund the much needed repairs and refurbishment. The proposal also importantly provides a farm diversification and a job opportunity for the younger members of the family farming business. The proposal for the wedding venue has been well received in the preliminary advertising that the applicants have done at wedding fairs throughout the year. There is a lot of interest in this property as a wedding venue as trends move towards more unique venues and marquee type venues. The main impacts of noise and traffic have been carefully considered in this proposal as set out by the officer. The applicants have confirmed that they are happy to invest significant funds in the specialist speakers that will minimise any noise outside of this site. Technological advances mean that it's now possible to have speakers that can direct noise to specific areas and prevent it soaking out into the wider atmosphere. Mundon Council have approved this type of noise attenuation at other wedding venues that are operating in the district, so we know it works well. In terms of highway impact, as has been stated, highways have no objection following the recent plans that have been sent through. And the site is also close to the train station and bus stop, so we do anticipate that not all vehicles will be car-based traffic. Heritage have also confirmed they have no concerns with the proposal at Southminster Hall. I would, however, raise concern about the 2-year time limit. At no point was there any discussions on the proposal being temporary, as the owners have a business plan stretching far beyond this 2-year time limit. The proposed condition 2 adds significant uncertainty to this business model. It appears that this time limitation has appeared because of the temporary nature of the WC facilities marquee proposed. All other aspects of this application have been approved, and I would ask that you consider extending the time limit if indeed it is considered necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms Jennings. Now, would any other officers like to speak? I think in light of what Ms Jennings has just requested regarding the condition, it would be helpful.
Yes, Your Chairman, the reasons for the 2-year time limit was partly because the marquee is a temporary type of structure which wouldn't ordinarily be appropriate to be permanently approved. Whilst every effort has been made to satisfy environmental health and highways, there is an element of slight element of unknown, so the 2-year period will give an opportunity for the impact of the use of the site as a wedding venue to be assessed, and then if any further mitigation measures are required, there will be an opportunity to require them at a subsequent date, when further application was submitted. So they're the reasons for the temporary. I do appreciate the 2 years isn't a particularly long time period for a business, but it's long enough. With the thinking behind it was long enough to get at least 2 summer seasons in for the wedding venue to give it some time to establish, but at the same time give the council opportunity to review the impact of it and reconsider it at the end of that period.
Thank you. So can I just clarify, after the 2-year period, would that then have to come back again as a new application with all the associated costs for the applicant?
The way the conditions have been worded, then yes, the permission would expire in 2 years' time unless an application had been made to extend that period. So there would be a cost in making that application. There'll be an application fee to pay. In terms of additional costs, that the drawings I would imagine would be the same as they are now. They might be tweaked slightly, but I can't think of any sort of supplementary document or something that would be required then that hasn't already been provided, that would mean that significant extra cost would be incurred.
Thank you. Any other officers like to add anything? Okay. Members. Oh, sorry.
I was also just going to say, in terms of the temporary permission, because it allows for that opportunity to review the impact. Obviously, if impacts do emerge, then there may be some additional costs, but obviously that it's very hard to make that judgment until, if there are any impacts, what they are and what their nature is.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Fuka.
Thank you very much, Chairman. You obviously know that I'm the ward member, so with Councillor Beale as well. So first of all, I'd just like to thank officers for listening to the concerns that I raised on behalf of residents who live in Station Road and Tattersall's and Cherry Orchard, all regarding noise, Chairman. I mean, I think it's fair to say that local people want this to succeed, because I think the agent's absolutely right. It does provide an opportunity, a much needed opportunity for employment in the village, but noise is a big concern. However, I note this application is for temporary permission, and I think that certainly gives members of the public a lot of comfort, because even though the applicant has gone to extraordinary lengths to mitigate noise and provide various boundaries to stop the noise progressing, we really do need to understand. And I think that if temporary consent is granted, then all parties, including the applicant, will be able to satisfy themselves that it's suitable for this location. So I would very much support the temporary aspects of this. Chairman, if I could just go on to conditions, there is just something that concerns me, and this is that condition number 6, and I hope I've got these around the right ways. I'd like to propose an amendment. I'd like to propose an amendment to condition number 6 on the basis that condition 13 states that the venue must be cleared by midnight. So I get that. So the venue has to be cleared by midnight. However, condition 6 says that amplified music can take place between 11 a.m. and 11:30. So, Chairman, my proposal would be to change that from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m, which would allow for an extra 30 minutes for guests to leave the site in an orderly manner, because I think that's important. We all know Station Road, so to leave in an orderly manner, and also allow the contractors and entertainers and everybody else an extra half an hour to clear up. And hopefully, Chairman, that would then mean that by midnight everybody really would have had plenty of time to get off, rather than at 11:30 closing the site down, and then you get, hopefully, the car park with 90 cars, 180 people jumping in their cars and rushing off, which would certainly not be fair to the people in Station Road. So I think there's a way of restricting the disturbance to certainly before 12 midnight. So, Chairman, if the committee were mindful to accept that, then I would propose that we agree the officer's recommendation, subject to that particular change. Thank you.
Thank you. Half an hour does seem a very short time frame to completely get all the guests and contractors and everybody associated out of the venue. I do appreciate that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Beale, seconding? Okay, members, this is something we can... Oh, Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, Chairman. Without wishing to upset the ward members on this, I'd like to explore this temporary condition. Members have said they're happy with it. But reading it, which is condition 1, the site is restored to its current condition. There is some permanent, and we were told by the applicant's agent that one of the reasons for this is to refurbish the old Victorian farmhouse. Is this condition saying that any alterations to the permanent, the bridal suite and any restoration to the building would have to be restored to its present condition?
Going to hand over to officers. Thank you, Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. That's a very helpful and useful issue that you've raised, and on the back of that, I would suggest that or recommend that the condition is changed so that it's only the use that it returns to residential use, and any physical works to the buildings do not have to be undone at the end of the 2-year period. And so it's the temporary structures are removed and the use reverting back to residential use, rather than all the works, including the physical changes to the bridal suite, can remain beyond the 2-year period.
Councillor Boyce, thank you. Councillor Boyce.
I just ask if that's acceptable to the ward members, Chairman, because they have moved a proposition and this is changing or would change their proposition.
Ward members. Not happy with that? Okay. It does look from the from what I could see that the actual hall itself remains unchanged, and that it's the building, the outbuilding, the bridal suite that will be altered somewhat. So I think we have a proposal. Do we? Could you just clarify? Councillor Helm, I'm sorry, you were hidden behind my camera then.
Or behind my mask. One of the
And
two.
behind your mask, I could barely see you.
Madam Chairman, anyone in business would know that 2 years temporary permission for the kind of money that they've got to spend to get this up to where they want to get it. The banks will turn them down because it's long enough. I would suggest an extension to at least 3 years temporary permission, if that's acceptable.
What do we think, committee? Councillor Fluker.
Well, Chairman, I did notice that nobody.
Sorry,
actually-
Councillor Helm, can you turn off your microphone, please? Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, I did notice nobody rushed to second that, but I would ask members to bear in mind how many people live very close to this. Tattershall, as you all know, is one of the most densely populated places in the district, not just Southminster. So there's a huge amount of people affected by this, and I think 2 years gives the opportunity to see what the effect's likely to be. My hope is that there's enough mitigation measures in place, but we need to test that, and I think 2 years is a far better period than 3. So I wouldn't support that, Chairman. No, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to you, Councillor Beale, as the other ward member, for your opinion on that. Thank you. So that's Councillor Beale supporting the 2 years. You didn't have your microphone on, Councillor Beale. That's okay. Did anyone wish to second Councillor Helm's amendment? Okay. So I think now we vote on the amended proposal first. The original one.
We vote on the first proposal.
The first proposal. So the first proposal is to accept the officer's recommendation as it stands, I believe, with the clarification that on the amendment on condition 6.
Condition 6.
Apologies, amendment on condition 6, which is to close at 11 rather than 11:30, and condition 1. So, members, do we want to vote on that, or are we? Yes, because we have to. Okay, so Bernard, I will hand over to you.
Okay, members. Thank you, Chair. We're voting for the officer's recommendation to approve the application subject to the amendments to both conditions 1 and 6 as discussed. I will call your names in alphabetical order. Please state clearly for, against or abstain, starting with Councillor Bassinger.
For.
Councillor Beale.
For.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Channer.
For.
Councillor Dewick. Councillor Fluker.
For.
Councillor Helm.
For.
Councillor Hull.
For.
Councillor Stamp.
For.
Thank you, members. That's 10 for the proposal.
Thank you very much.
None against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, members. So we move on now to. Thank you. That's my news. So we move on to item 6, 21 00193, full. Land adjacent to Cliffords Farm, Burnham Road, Althorne, Essex. There is a members' update, members, for this item, and presenting will be Louise Staplehurst. So again, we do have public participants for this planning application. So once Ms Staplehurst has presented, I will invite members of the public to speak. I will hand over first of all, trying to give you some time to get to the table, Ms Staplehurst. So when you're ready, over to you.
First of all, please note the members' update, which includes consultation responses from Highways and SUDS, who both have no objections, additional public comments and updated conditions taking into account the consultation responses. This application proposes the construction of 13 dwellings in total, 8 affordable dwellings and 5 detached market dwellings. The 8 affordable units would be in the form of 2 blocks of flats in the western part of the site, with 4 units in each building. The detached market dwellings would front the road in the eastern part of the site. 3 accesses are proposed, 1 to the flats, 1 to the dwellings, and a separate one in between the market and affordable housing, which will be used to access the agricultural fields to the south. A footpath is proposed at the site frontage to join the existing pedestrian network. A large proportion of soft landscaping is proposed within the site. However, no specific details of planting have been provided with the application. The housing mix will be as follows: 4 one-bedroom units, which will be affordable, 4 two-bedroom units, which will be affordable, and 5 four-bedroom units, which are the market dwellings. So this is the location plan showing the site outlined in red on the southern side of Burnham Road, just outside of the settlement boundary of Althorne. This is the block plan showing the 2 affordable flat buildings on the western side of the site and the market dwellings on the eastern side of the site, and the access to the fields in the centre to the south. These are the floor plans and elevations of flat building 1. This contains 4 flats, 2 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units, with the ground floor units being a wheelchair accessible design. These are the floor plans and elevations of flat building 2. There are slight design amendments externally, but internally it's the same layout as flat building 1. These are the elevations and floor plans for house type A, which is located on plot 1 and is a 4-bedroom dwelling with an attached double garage. The plans for house type B, which will be on plot 2 and 4, and again is a 4-bedroom dwelling with an attached double garage. The plans for house type C, which will be located on plot 3, 4 bedrooms with an integral garage for 2 cars. And house type D, which will be located on plot 5, again with 4 bedrooms, no attached garage, but there is a detached garage. The plans for which are shown here, as well as the refuse and cycle store, which will be positioned to the frontage of the flats. This street scene plan shows the detached dwellings and the flats and how they would appear from Burnham Road. Some photographs showing the view towards the northern boundary of the site, and the view looking northeast along the road, sort of heading out of Althorne. some photos showing the view along the northwest of the site and the site frontage. And some photos showing the neighbouring dwellings, which include similar design features to the proposed dwellings, and the view across the road towards Mansion House Farm to the northeast. The development has been assessed as being acceptable when taking into account the substantial benefits of the proposal, which would outweigh the conflict that the development would have with the LDP in terms of the inaccessible location and impact on the countryside. In particular, this relates to the volume of affordable housing proposed in a locality within the district where it has previously been difficult to deliver affordable housing, which would weigh heavily in favour of the development. The applicant has also agreed to enter into a Section 106 agreement to address matters of affordable housing and RAMS. It's therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms Staplehurst, for that. So, as mentioned, we do have some public participation. So, I will now invite Mr Burgess, first of all, to speak, please. And may I remind you that you are allocated 2 minutes. So, Mr Burgess, please. And when you are ready, we will start the clock. Okay.
Is this working?
Yes, I think we can hear you. Thank you.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. This application is unsustainable with flawed housing and inadequate sewerage disposal. A tilted balance is used to justify approval. This is irrelevant. It is contrary to national policy. A planning inspectorate appeal dated 25th of August 2021 states, there appears to be a consistent conclusion over a sustained period that Althorne is not to be regarded as a sustainable location for housing growth. Consequently, the proposal would not accord with the overarching spatial strategy and objectives to sustainably locate new housing development. Affordable housing is not social housing, it is financial engineering for a market offer. Althorne is 82% owner-occupied. It has an excess of affordable Band A dwellings, 25% against a district average of 6. A local housing needs assessment, albeit 10 years ago, mainly reflected a desire to trade up or leverage equity release, not demand affordable housing. At 62%, the affordable housing content is pure window dressing. No registered provider is nominated, nor was there one at nearby Burnham Waters, which was not financially viable. Post-approval there, a revision was requested by the developer Think Green Land, the advisor here, with development rights over the whole field. Express a request for reconfiguration. The development is not connectable to the main sewer. It lies below the gravity fall line. Sewage disposal requires a sump and pump system. This is not specified. This application is based on obfuscation, not reality. It should be refused.
Thank you very much, Mr Burgess. Well within time. So I also have Parish Councillor Mr Terry Inkpen, please. When you're ready, Mr Inkpen, Councillor Inkpen, I do apologise.
Thank you. Is this working okay? Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm speaking as a representative of Althorne Parish Council. This is on the application. The criticism of this application starts with much of the information on the document, such as the application form and the design and access statements being incorrect and misleading, including, for example, bus services and distance to facilities and services available in the village. Presumably this is all aimed at improving the apparent sustainability of the site, but the whole of Althorne is unsustainable anyway, as evidenced by the fact that in Althorne from 2013 to 2017 there have been 22 applications for new dwellings, 17 in total were refused, including 10 after appeals. In all except one, unsustainable location was one of the reasons for rejection.
This lack of sustainability is significant, as with the other 5-year housing land supply, there is a presumption in favour of sustainable development, but this site is clearly not sustainable. The site is also outside the village development envelope, a factor that has contributed to the refusal of 3 other applications within 50 metres of this site in recent years. The 3 new access points directly onto the increasingly busy Burnham Road for what could be 20 more cars will add to the congestion and hazards on our local roads, because there's no doubt that with the lack of facilities and poor transport, most journeys will be made by car. One of the features of the poor infrastructure in the village is the inadequate sewage system. 2 or 3 times a year, residents in the north of the village are inundated with several inches of sewage, diluted with rainwater. Anglia Water are aware of these problems and how they can say in their response to this application that the system is adequate to cope with the extra development is incredible. We believe that the choice made to approve the application by the planning officer in a very detailed study between the attraction of 8 more affordable homes and the harm to the village that will result is the wrong
Sorry,
one.
Councillor Inkpen, that is your 2 minutes.
Thank you.
So thank you very, very much for
Thank
that.
you.
So we then move to the applicant's agent, Mr. Stuart Rowe, please. Sorry, Councillor Inkpen, I need you to. Thank you. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Rowe, we'll start the clock.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members. I'm Stuart Rowe, planning consultant and the agent for the applicant, Georgina McHugh. Members will be very aware of the current lack of a 5-year housing land supply and the ramifications of this for decision making. I'm not going to lecture the committee on that matter. I think you're all very well aware of that. A raft of applications will be coming forward for housing, most of them outside settlement boundaries. Most of them will propose low numbers of dwellings and many will be in unsustainable locations. However, as members are aware, each application is considered on its merits individually and it must be weighed in the planning balance. So the refusal for planning permission in one location, even nearby, actually doesn't mean that another one has to be refused as well. It has to be weighed, each and every one. And I say this because I'm aware of the refusals locally, and in particular, for example, there was one for 14 units not so long ago at Winterdale Manor, not very far away. Now, that scheme was considered when the council had a 5-year housing land supply, and the settlement boundaries then prevailed, which of course they don't now. The housing mix there didn't represent what was required locally. There were issues with the design and layout. It was a fairly suburban proposal. It was recommended for refusal and members agreed with that. Whereas the current application, I think, is very different. It's predicated upon the housing needs in Althorne. There's research to support that, some of which is based on the council's own documents. It proposes affordable housing that meets specific needs of the district. The development is a linear layout, so it reflects the character nearby. So I accept that Althorne isn't the most sustainable location. The report makes that point, it accepts it, and so do I. But that isn't a killing blow, I don't think. I think you have to balance that against all of the benefits arising from the scheme. Your officers have weighed those benefits in that planning balance and consider that it tilts in favour of granting planning permission. There's a recommendation of approval, and I hope the members can support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well timed, Mr. Rowe. And Councillor Shannon.
Madam Chairman, I don't know if I need to, but I will. Just on pecuniary, I'm a trustee of an almshouse charity nearby. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Helm.
I also.
Also, almshouse, yeah? Thank you. Okay, then, that brings us to Councillor Morris, who is our final speaker. Councillor Morris, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I find myself a little bit undone by the previous,
Point of order, Chairman. Point of order, Chairman. Councillor Morris is not a member of this committee.
Speaking as a member of the public.
He is not. I think we've used up the amount of speakers for the public with the two, with the parish council representative and a member of the public.
So many.
Taking advice.
Well, my understanding, Chairman, sorry, somebody's got a microphone on, sorry. My understanding was that Councillor Morris applied to speak
Yes,
as an
he did.
attendance member, and you've
He
used your
did, in
discretion.
an attendance member, and I've used my discretion as the chair of the committee. So, Councillor Morris, please go ahead.
May I begin again, please, Chair?
Yes, I think we'll start again, please.
Chairman, sorry, point of order.
Councillor Shannon.
I think you just said you used your discretion to allow him in as an in-attendance member, whereas Mr. Morris just said he was speaking to the public.
No, it's I did take advice earlier because Councillor Morris did formally approach me and request permission from me as chair to speak. So I then consulted as under what that would be, and it is in fact an in-attendance member. So I'm still learning the ropes on who's who and what's what, but I understand that is acceptable that Councillor Morris speaks as an in-attendance member.
Yes, that's part of the regulations, yes.
Thank you. So, Councillor Morris.
So now that the Dengie Mafia have tried to assassinate me, I'll begin. The first two speakers were excellent and have undone me quite a bit, but I find myself in a position again where I'll be saying what everyone else is thinking. And I'm just wondering that has the Dengie Mafia turned out to support their Commodore and his motley crew? And
careful, Councillor Morris.
Well, I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking.
I'm sorry,
just saying what everyone else is thinking.
Madam Chair, it's not
It might be disgraceful, but it's truthful.
I do have to stop you.
It might be disgraceful in someone's eyes, but it's truthful. I wonder if this has got anything to do with Commodore, with our friend the Commodore.
Madam Chairman,
I want to refer to my chairman's protocol, I'm afraid, Councillor Morris.
Madam Chairman, I want it recorded that I find the comments made totally offensive and unacceptable.
And I'd like it recorded. I'd like it recorded that this is yet again another brown envelope job.
I will leave this big, Madam Chairman.
Madam Chairman.
Just saying what everyone's thinking.
I'm trying to read my
brown envelope.
Councillor Stamp, don't talk to me. Councillor Stamp, don't talk to me. You've got no integrity.
Madam Chairman, if this is not controlled, I will leave this meeting.
Protocol states.
Oh, then, Penny. Bye.
Attend and speak out of turn or make derogatory comments regarding members of staff or councillors. It is my responsibility as the chair to take action. So, sorry.
Madam Chairman, I've got total respect for you in the chair today, but I will speak my truth, and I am saying what a lot of people are thinking. Now I'm prepared to shut my mouth and let the meeting carry on.
Councillor Morris, I do have to give you a warning, but
I'm sorry, what are you warning me about?
no, unacceptable behaviour.
And how have I been unacceptable when I'm just speaking my truth?
Breaches of the
Breaches of the...
breaches of the code of conduct.
Sorry, what? You cannot judge a breach of the code of conduct. It needs to go to joint standards. If you want to take me there again, that's not a problem, but I will say my truth.
I don't want to suspend the meeting. This is an important application and I would like the meeting to continue, please. So may I request that that's it now? Please. Councillor Morris.
Councillor Bell, thank you.
Thank you. So if we may continue the meeting now, please, members. I've completely lost where I am. I believe now that we go back to any officers who may wish to speak again. Yeah, please. Nobody else wishes to say anything. So I will throw it open to, I said officers, Councillor Stamp, sorry. So I will now throw it over to members. Councillor Boyce, you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had an argument with my ward members, but who's to speak first?
I was going to go to ward members, Councillor Boyce, so...
I think this application, it is a well-argued case that the officers make, but and I take the point that was made by the applicant's agent, and I think the officer, that each application is assessed on its merits. in my view, this application has no merits because it is in an unsustainable position. Now, I've heard and understood the arguments about the unsustainability being mitigated by the affordable housing. I have always advocated that Althorne requires some affordable housing. But, and this is a cliche perhaps, but this isn't the right position for affordable housing. And the agent again referred to the other refusals, which is in the past, which dealing with this application on its own merits, I believe I am able to refer to the planning application refusals and subsequent appeals that have been dismissed because of unsustainability. There was two opposite, and one was mentioned, the Winterdale Manor one, which in my view is in a sustainable position because it is on a half-hour bus route. This application site is not nearby Winterdale Manor, it is quite some distance away. And if people in affordable housing have not got public transport, it will be nearer for them, almost nearer for them to walk to Burnham than to walk to the bus stops. The issue of drainage. Now, Anglian Water have said that they can deal with it. Perhaps they can. It goes to Mayland. Summerhill, I've represented Althorne for nearly 40 years. And Summerhill has always had a problem with surcharging sewage down it. In fact, on one occasion, I went to one property that had 18 inches of sewage inside the property because it was set down. It's the old chapel in Althorne. Anglian Water made provisions to prevent that happening again, but it still surcharges. So for those reasons, I have to consider going against the officer recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. Can I go to other ward member, please? Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I concur with pretty much everything that Councillor Boyce has said. There's a few other sort of aspects to this. The officer's report says there would be some change of character to the area. Well, if you look at the plan itself, I mean, we're looking at a field, really. And if you put a small housing estate on a field, I wouldn't say that is some small character change to the area. I would say that is a massive character change to the area. Also, with the views that we saw, they all seem to be along the road and different views, but there isn't one that actually shows you the view from the road looking down to the River Crouch, which is a spectacular view and has been enjoyed by everyone for years and years. And again, you put a block of houses in front of that, well, that is a change to the rural character, I would say. I would also like to say about the unsustainability, as Councillor Boyce has said, you know, there is absolutely no way you can use the station. There is one bus that comes through Althorne once a day at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that goes towards Burnham. So there's no public transport at all. There's very, very limited paving. And also, this development, I think, has something like 34 parking spaces included in it. So again, we're looking at an environmental issue here. We are bringing all of these cars, or possibly all of these cars, at least 20 cars, into this environment. So again, we have a huge environmental change of character, I would say. I would also like to look at the design, I think, as well. And we've got affordable houses and unaffordable houses, as far as I'm concerned, or maybe not, you call them market houses. Certainly not social housing. And it does say, I think somewhere, where is it, 5.4.2, that good design is fundamental to high quality new development. Okay. Permission should be refused for development of poor design. Okay, so when you look at affordable housing and unaffordable housing, One has got, I would imagine, sort of design qualities and will have boarding and will have windows that look great and all design whatever. And the other two, the two blocks, will be two brick blocks. That's what they will be. They will be affordable housing. They will be two blocks of flats, basically. So I don't see how they look the same as the affordable. So the unaffordable will not look the same as the unaffordable. So we'll have two very different types of building. In fact, just by the statement, one is blocks of flats, the other one are houses. So again, that I think is the design issue I have, that they are poorly designed. Certainly, as Councillor Boyce has said, the sewage issue in Althorne has been atrocious, and only recently there was flooding again. The other thing I'd like to say is I think this whole application is based on an old housing assessment from what I can see. And I know they're saying we shouldn't regard this because this application was put in, but is it the LHNA concludes that the district has a need for small dwellings, and these smaller dwellings would be 2 to 3 bedroom houses. This application is all based on the fact that we would get 1 to 2 bedroom houses. So we're not actually getting what is required. And that's a bit like saying, you know, we need to go from A to B at this date, but now it's changed and people need to go from B to A. But hey, forget that, we'll go from A to B because that's what we've decided to do, rather than acknowledging the fact that the goalposts have changed and we are now looking for 2 to 3 bedroom houses. We do not have a requirement for 1 to 2 bedroom houses. So all in all, I actually would like to say that I totally would like to refuse this application based on sustainability. I don't think it has any economic benefits for the area, and I think it would be devastating to the character of the area as well. And by the way, we are tearing up something like, I don't know how many 100 feet of hedgerow, which I know they're going to pay 100 and something quid to mitigate it in some way. But to me, I think killing off the habitat, destroying the hedgerows to put a little housing estate, which actually will do nothing to really relieve the 5-year land supply that we're so desperately trying to fulfill. To me, this is absolutely a flawed application, and I would like to propose that we refuse it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bassinger. Members, oh, I'm losing my voice. Anybody else like to speak? Sorry, it was Councillor Bassinger. That was a proposal, wasn't it? So
Was
do
indeed.
I have a seconder for that proposal? Sorry, bear with. Okay, sorry, bear with me. Mr. Lee is going to come back on the reasons for refusal. So over to you, Mr. Lee.
Through you, Chairman. Just hoping to make sure I've got them. There's quite a lot in your. Obviously, Councillor Bashin, obviously you're the one that gives the puts forward the reasons for refusal. So just trying to comment on some of the points you made. So then hopefully we can collectively formulate what you're proposing. Then obviously if there's a seconder, we can move forward on that. In relation to sustainability, what I'd obviously advise members is that the officer's report quite happily acknowledges that the site isn't sustainable. It acknowledges the previous reason for refusal, and that inspectors have agreed that the site isn't sustainable. What the point of this application is that we've got no 5-year land supply, the tilted balance comes into play, and officers have taken into account the social, economic, environmental aspects of the MPPF and considered on the balancing exercise that the social benefits of having a higher percentage of affordable housing outweighs the conflict with the environmental aspects in relation to the impact on the character of the area, which, as the officer's report explains, happens with any development, which is a certain level of neutrality. With that, we have to show, I would say, a exceptional impact, but that comes back to subjectivity. I'll move on to that slightly. And in relation to the economic benefits, I think it'd be very dangerous to say there are no economic benefits for the simple fact that, as you see in every appeal decision, inspector acknowledges with any development there is some economic benefits through, even if temporarily, the construction, etc. And we see that repeated in every appeal decision. So I'd be very worried if we as a council said there were no economic benefits, because that would go clearly against what every appeal, even for a single house, says. So for that tilted balance, I'd be very worried if we said there were no economic benefits. In relation to impact on the character of the area, as I was sort of saying, any development on any field will have some level of impact, and that's what the officer's report is trying to say, that, you know, there is some impact on character of the area. Maybe it's limited, you know, that is a subjective point. If members don't agree with that, that's within your gift. That is up to yourselves as the decision makers. In relation to the sewage, though, what I would flag up is that, you know, the statutory consultee has said it's acceptable without having any evidence to go against their stance. It would be very dangerous, I would advise, for members to state that. You know, you've all heard me say it 100 times, you know, if we've got technical experts advising us that something's acceptable, unless we have somebody technical to go against it, we're going to be in a very difficult position with a reason for refusal for that. Anecdotal information is not enough to stand up to against a statutory consultee saying something's okay. So I would be concerned about that. Also, the statement, it doesn't do anything to relieve the 5-year land supply. At the end of the day, this is a major application that's full, so it would go straight into the 5-year land supply figures. So you might say it's not a particularly big benefit, but to say nothing would be dangerous as well, because there is some. Unlike an outline application for a large amount of houses that actually might not actually feed anything into the 5-year land supply, this application would put some figures into. So to say nothing, once again, is just a little bit too weighted one way, which would put us in a dangerous position at an appeal, because we're not taking a reasonable position in relation to the benefits and the weighting process. I think while there was other things said, I think they were the main points that you proposed around reasons for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I believe design, Councillor Bassinger mentioned. And I would like to add my concerns that I looking at the drawings, might, again, subjective, and I understand it always is, but it did look like a red brick block plonked in the middle of the countryside from the drawings, and hard to tell, again, subjective.
Yeah, but your Chairman, what I'll say is, yeah, that is a subjective point. You know, if members don't think design is an acceptable standard, that's within their gift to come to that conclusion. As I said, you know, when it comes to subjective matters, I said before, you know, that is, you know, I'm quite happy for members to, you know, advise, but at the end of the day, you can fall on either side of the fence to a certain extent. The only issues I would raise are where we're making statements that are either incorrect, as in it wouldn't have any benefit to economic or 5-year land supply, or where we're going to go against a statutory consultee without having demonstrable evidence. But otherwise, members, the other points are within your gift. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Bassinger, back to you. Would you consider changing those slightly at all? Or?
Absolutely.
Chair, would you like some assistance?
Mr. Lee, that would be lovely.
Myself, yes, please.
I think, taking into account what Councillor Bastian said, roughly, obviously what I would suggest is that...
Chairman, aren't we rather getting ahead of ourselves?
My understanding, Councillor Boyce, and I've just been advised, I was just advised by Mr. Lee, is that we need to firm up the reasons on which the proposal to refuse is based before we get to a seconder. Am I correct, Mr. Lee?
Chairman, that's as members will be aware from the recent training that did by myself and, more importantly, Mr. Quelch in relation to this matter, there is case law that says that members, should have a clear, precise reason for refusal before entering into a vote and things. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Changing rules, Councillor Boyce, I think. No. Please carry on. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, Chairman, can I ask that we carry on debating? Could I ask Councillor Bassinger, I was going to call him Mark, just so we can carry on debating it before we actually make a proposal? If that's reasonable, members. Does anybody else feel like that?
Sorry,
we could be other reasons.
Take planning advice.
Or not, yeah, but it's debating.
We are in the position where Councillor Bassinger has put a proposal, so we need to. If Councillor Bassinger wishes to pull that proposal, we may carry on debating. But if he does not, then we carry on as we were going.
Chairman, I feel.
You could make proposals as you like, but we can carry on debating.
Yeah.
So Councillor Bassinger's proposal still stands.
So we need to continue to firm up the proposal with the reasons, get a seconder if so, and then move back to the debate.
Yeah.
Thank you, officers.
Through Chair, and I would say as Councillor Bass, taking into account your points, and hopefully you can take into account what weight I would advise you to give these. I'd advise that your primary reason seems to be the impact on the character of the area, including the design of the proposed development. One in relation to the sustainability of the site, which obviously, officers wouldn't disagree with, but it comes up to the balancing exercise. Obviously, there was one about no economic benefits, and I wouldn't advise members included that. One in relation to sewage, which I'd also advise we wouldn't include. And I wouldn't actually say the lack of a 5-year land supply, or how it would actually form a reason for refusal on its own. It would have been a material consideration. So they would be the 4 that I would say you've put forward. And obviously, you've got my comments about the merits of the 4 of them. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Back to you, Councillor Bassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, Mrs. Chair, Madam Chairman, Mr. Lee. Thank you very much. And yes, I will accept those. And then I think we should then, as we've all agreed, accept those as the first proposal and continue the debate.
So we do need a second. I want to go back to. I'm slightly confused here because Mr. Lee has advised that saying no impact would be inadvisable and no benefit. So I'm just wondering.
No, impact would be advisable as far as I understood.
Using a definitive such as no was inadvisable.
Chairman, my advice was in relation. I would, the first 2 reasons refusal. Impact on character area / design. That's a subjective point. I don't think, the officer's report acknowledges the lack of sustainability, so I wouldn't have any issue with that. All I said is I wouldn't encourage members to either look for reason for refusal on no economic benefits, because, and also wouldn't recommend members to look to refuse on sewage because we don't, it's statutory consultee. So if members wish to go on the first 2, their planning merit, the second 2, I would be concerned about those matters. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. So, Councillor Bassinger, are we happy to go on the first 2?
Yes, but we could possibly add on minimal economic benefits.
Minimal.
Chairman, I would advise that wouldn't necessarily be a reason for refusal. It just weighs against the development. So rather than, I don't think it stands up on its own as a reason for refusal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm willing to accept those 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Bassinger's motion to refuse with those?
I may have missed something here, but can I please hear what the proposal actually is? Because I don't know what would be, I know it's to refuse, but I don't know exactly why.
Thank you, of course. Now, my understanding is that it is to refuse on the grounds of design and what was the other, Councillor Bassinger?
An impact on the countryside. and
Impact on the character of the area.
And sustainability, if required.
And sustainability. Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Stan. Okay, and now we can carry on with the debate, members. I do apologise for any confusion caused. So I'm going Councillor Helm first, then Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, I need to declare I'm not a member of any mafia or any other association for Councillor Whitworth's benefit. I don't disagree with what's been said, but my concern is the young people of this district. Where are they going to live? Where can they afford to live? They can't afford to live in Mundon. My son has had to get a house in Colchester because he can't afford anything in this district at all. So that's the question I want to put to the planning officers. Where are young people going to live? Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Chairman. The council has a requirement to deliver 5 years' worth of housing land supply. We aren't shouldering our burden in that. We're at 3.26 years. That's when the tilted balance comes in, which then means that as a council we will need to make difficult decisions. If we don't make some difficult decisions, inspectors will make it on our behalf. Officers consider that this is an application that should be supported to a certain extent along the lines that Councillor Helms raised. I think we can honestly say that this application would be up for approval if we had a 5-year land supply, irrespective of the benefits of the additional affordable housing. But we are in a situation where we aren't, and there is a high percentage of affordable housing. Where are they going to live? But that's in members' gift, because you determine the applications when they come in. Officers can only make the recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank
Back,
you.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, could I ask you to sit slightly further back from the microphone, please, Councillor Helm, because we get some
Sorry.
feedback.
What I have to say to that is probably up to mum and dad to find them a house because they can't afford their own. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Channer next and then back to Councillor Bassinger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with actually a lot that's been said, Councillor Bassinger, and I think actually the first two speakers were really on the button with things that they said. Regarding, in the report, it said about the housing register and a large number of, people are on the housing register for Althorne, and I recognise that might be from the housing services response back when this application came in. However, just like some clarification there, I'd like the numbers actually, because making inquiries, and I do agree actually a member of the public has raised this about the housing register numbers, and we're talking about affordable housing here, and with all due respect, here we are, unsustainable location which has been proven. There was an application on this site actually which wasn't quite clear from the report before, and that went down. What's been added on now actually is essentially, apart from I think another property may be, the affordable housing. So what we're hinging this all on is the affordable housing. Now my understanding is to get a true picture of housing requirement for I went with several areas I wanted to know about. Doesn't mean to say it remains the same, and in fact most people say Mundon they want to come to, and latterly in fact when we have had it, I can say I don't think I'm giving away confidential information. I think there's about a large number of active applicants within the whole district, but and on the register as of today's date. However, the areas mentioned that were highlighted by applicants didn't include Althorne. That's my latest information. And certainly when bidding happens, because remember there's bidding has to be involved here, certainly again, when the bids came in, I've got all the numbers here and areas, Althorne's not mentioned. So I'm a bit just concerned about the housing register stating a large number of people are actually stating Althorne. I think the first speaker said it all regarding the spatial strategy. We know we're not delivering 5-year housing land supply at this current time. However, the intended outcomes of the spatial strategy are entirely consistent with the MPPF, including the need to actively manage patterns of growth to locations which are sustainable through limiting the need to travel and offering genuine choice of transport modes. This site does not. In fact, a recent appeal statement in Althorne actually will tell you all about this and where the bus stops are and what they serve. And the only sort of, if you like, regular service could be that which is down at Southminster Road, which is far removed actually from this application site. So then we come to weight, and significant weight to the harm that would arise from the conflict with the adopted development plans of the spatial strategy, and I would think S1, S2, S8. I can come up with some more. I think there's T2. I also think there's H1 and I1, I think it is. So I think there's, and D1, it might cover then what Councillor Bassinger was saying. And we've done things similar recently. Look at Southminster. There was an application, Knightswood. Similar sort of thing, if you like, unsustainable, not connected. Proof that we've got to have a footpath even put in tells you something. Taking out historic hedgerow as well, for want of a better reason, in terms that it's been there a very long time. And I do think it is right about the appearance of the development in terms of the harm it will cause to the character and appearance of the area in which the site actually sits. And also, it will increase the demand for infrastructure within that part of the area in terms of education, and schools, and well, it is schools, isn't it? And with GPs. So there's all that, and that was used actually. That was help formulated with officers over another application we refused, and it does not constitute clearly a sustainable development, and there'd be no benefits which outweigh the harm, in my opinion. Now, Madam Chairman, I've heard everyone say we must go with every application on its own merits. Only at a recent South East, an officer said, when we were debating one about a single residence, that we had it rammed down, for want of a better word, I don't mean that rudely, that if we allowed it, actually we would be setting a precedent. Stony Hills, Every time we have an application for Stony Hills, what do we hear? Look what's going on here, look what's going on there, look at appeal decisions. You have to take that as a material consideration. Sorry, was that something I said humorous? Oh, right, thank you very much. I thought I saw some dialogue and some giggling. So, to me, I'm just mindful of what's been said in previous meetings about precedent, Madam Chairman. I could go on and on. I've got a load of notes here, but they're all coming down, I have to say. And bearing in mind, S8, we do seek to protect the landscape and natural resources and ecological value of things, and I think this application goes against that. So I think there are a fair number of policies within our LDP. Yes, I hear what Mr. Lee's saying about the 5-year housing land supply, but as I've pointed out, our spatial strategy still is entirely consistent with the NPPF, including the need to actively manage patterns of growth. And I'll leave it there at the moment, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Councillor Bassinger and then Councillor Fluke. But first of all, I just want to make a comment about the somewhat nebulous nature of affordable housing. We're not talking about social housing here. We're talking about affordable housing, for which there is actually no firm, concrete definition.
Chairman, it's in the NPPF.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and it would be.
I'm just looking
No,
at
no, in the planning. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's within the NPPF, and any Section 106 agreement that we sign requires that the dwelling. We would look for. We've got a policy that talks about the split and all things like that. So yeah, there is.
Can you clarify that for me, please? So, what is exactly the percentage cheaper of an affordable dwelling than a market dwelling?
This is rental. This would be rental, or probably because of the temporary. But normally.
Sorry, these are rental or these are.
Our policy off the cuff. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. Be useful to.
I just think it would be helpful if people knew what it actually, what the actual figure.
Yeah, through your chairman, you've got the difference between the NPPF gives a definition of what affordable housing. That includes affordable rents, discount sales, sales in relation to where cause they've updated the wording, and it's it used to be key workers, but it's been changed to you need to be able to demonstrate there's a need for the employees, not just any key worker. So that has been slightly changed. There is discount sales, first-time buyers now. There is also shared ownership, etc., and that's all stated within the NPPF. We have a policy that requires a split of 70-30, I think it is off the cuff. And as I said, it's always helpful if I get a heads up on questions like this.
Sorry, actually, I think we've misunderstood each other. Not the percentage of dwellings. I want the percentage cheaper than an affordable
I don't think there's any. Our policy would not be looking for this to be discount sales. That's not what.
So this is the point I'm trying to make. Is in terms of this application, what does affordable actually mean? Because Councillor Helms made points about children not being able to.
The first thing I think is 70% of the dwellings would require to be rental normally, and I don't think it's 10% is. Is it 80%? Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's not. We're not I think you're not looking at what our policy requires. That's the difference. You're in the air.
I just thought, but I think it would be useful. I certainly would find it useful. So I do apologise, members, if I went off piste slightly there. But I think it's helpful to know. So I was going to Councillor Bassinger, then Councillor Fluke.
Chairman, would you mind? I just wanted a point of clarity before I come back.
Please do.
It might help Councillor Bassinger.
Go ahead, Councillor
as
Fluke.
well. It was really just a point of clarity around 7.3 and some of the comments that Councillor Channer made, because clearly there seemed to be a question against those comments that are made by the Housing Department. Now, I can't think of any other way to put this to the Officer Chairman, but the housing, to quote this, it says the housing register contains a significant number of people interested in affordable accommodation in Althorne. Now, that's contrary to what Councillor Channer said and believes. So, Chairman, I'd like to know what the true position is, and I think based on what the conversation or the debate you had with Mr. Lee around what is affordable housing, I'm beginning to think that it might be a good idea to defer this to enable somebody from the Housing Department to come to this meeting and explain what the position is, Chair. First, I'd like to know what stacks up, what Councillor Chan has said or what the Housing Department said.
Going to you, Mr. Lee, please.
Through you, Chairman. Jump back to the point we're talking about in relation to affordable housing and stuff. Our policy H1 explains the affordable housing that we're normally looking for, which goes more specific than that is just required through the MPPF, and that highlights it will be predominantly social rent, affordable rent, and intermediate/shared ownership. So as I said, this would not be a discount sales. While there is an option for that, and the MPPF, I think, or the guidance now talks about 20% reduction, that isn't what our policy is looking at. We have the ability to take advantage of the definition of the within the MPPF, and it may well be in certain instances we would look to do that. But if we were looking to do that, that would be explicitly laid out to members so that they were aware that we were slightly deviating from our policy. But otherwise, we would be looking to just deliver our usual split of social rent and shared ownership properties, as with any other scheme that we've done across the district. So yeah, in relation to that, in relation to Councillor Fluker's second, or obviously that was his first point, as he said, you know, the housing service has advised us, you know, as it says in the officer's report, that there is a demand for affordable housing in the area, that number is above the level of properties proposed as part of this application. I personally can't expand on that any further because that is a consultation response. I'm taking it at face value that the officer is correct, just like we do with any other consultee response. But yeah, I can't really say any more than that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I mean, members, do we feel like we have enough information to go ahead and listen to this? We do, I think. Yes, thank you, Councillor Chan.
Chairman, that was my point. I think I said I was aware of the housing services response. I've got it here on my mobile, actually. And in fact, it does go on to say that it is to be noted that the parish of Althorne is in a designated protected area, DPA, under the statutory instruments number 2098, designated protected area in the East of England schedule. This restricts occupants of any proposed shared ownership units arising, blah, 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 blah. So I obviously read that background because I was interested in that. I have gone to the housing services, given a list of places I'm interested to know, bearing in mind that housing register, of which Althorne was one. And the response I got from the housing service, so I'm not saying anything else, was saying you need to be a bit cautious. When applicants complete the online application form, they have a choice of selecting individually all areas of Mundon or just Mundon as a whole. Most applicants just select Mundon as a whole and then wait for a property to be advertised, which may be in the areas you have listed. I will see how the report pans out, but as mentioned, please be cautious with this as it is not a true reflection. What I will also show is the total number of housing register. The officer came back and then said, Dear Councillor Chan, further previous email, gave me the whole number across the whole district of the areas you mentioned, which were Althorne was only one. I did my own ward because I'm interested to know my own ward, and also Southminster, Councillor Fluker's. And it then gave me the numbers of those areas and the numbers of applicants that have highlighted those areas. It's then shown me the latest bidding and how many numbers for each of areas, but Althorne's not amongst those. So I was just trying to work out the response given and then that, but I feel I've got enough information because to me, I think that's a moot point really. I know we're saying the issue is here, the affordable housing being the issue, and I'm sorry, for me, the affordable housing numbers, which, and we're hearing it's significant, I'm sorry, it's only 62%. The affordable housing in that area should be 4%, and that effectively only equates to 2 dwellings we're talking about, or a 1-bedroom flat or something. So to me, that affordable housing does not outweigh the impact of the development. I appreciate the officers' assessment and how they feel, but obviously as a member, we can apply the weight a different way, and I'm afraid mine comes down the other way, that even with the affordable housing, it does not outweigh the impact of that development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Councillor Bassinger now. You wish to add something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but I think I was
Do
sort of going
apologise.
back to what Councillor Helm was saying about his consideration for his children or the young people of that area. And all I can say is it just seems ridiculous to put people on low income or young people that are struggling in an unsustainable area that has absolutely nothing. Not a shop, not a school, not a hospital, absolutely zero. There is nothing. There is a recreation ground with a swing yard, as far as I'm aware, and a pub. So, you know, young people, I think, want a lot more for themselves and for their children, and Althorne certainly cannot provide it.
Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Stamp, please.
Mine, I'm not going to say a lot because everybody said more than what I could possibly say. I've got a little correction to make, and I'd like to ask the person who wrote the transport statement. It says quite clearly that the journey to Burnham on Sea is 4 hours, 4 minutes, and it's 222 miles. So I'd actually ask them to check the accuracy of the reports they're putting before council. It maybe sounds a bit flippant, but I'm not. I've taken it seriously because people read these documents, and if they're not accurate, you know, they need to be highlighted that they're not accurate. I admit it could be a cut, copy and paste. I don't know what it is, Madam Chair, but it's quite serious. I also note that I have looked at this application that the affordable contained the ground floors was wheelchair, which is great. But my next point from that, Madam Chair, is there's no good having a wheelchair. There's no pavement, so I call them footpaths because I'm from the north. There's no footpaths. We've been in Althorne today. We've had meetings today about the highways. It is not sustainable to walk anywhere around there, and also it's not safe at the moment. There is no road that can or pavement that you can push a wheelchair. You can't hop on a bus, you know, because there aren't any buses or they're very limited. The only ones you see is the school kiddies, which I think a member said earlier on. To go to the station to even get anywhere, it's very expensive for people if they're, you know, on affordable houses. And the station is so far, when you walk down that hill, you take your life in your hands there as well anyway. And the last time I went, and I think Councillor Bassinger could put me right on here, and I dropped down there to help in election a long time ago, there were so big potholes you needed to be careful. So, I mean, I know they're inconsequential, and Mr. Lee will turn around and say they're not planning reasons, Councillor Stamp, but these are reasons. I feel this is what actually affects the people who are going to live in there. And I also feel that 1 and 2 bedroomed affordables are not what we need. We need 3 bedrooms for young families, and they need to be in a more sustainable location. So whilst I agree and supported Councillor Bassinger, it is an inaccessible location. I think the impact on the countryside doesn't mitigate the affordable housing, and it is an unsustainable location. And I totally agree with the proposal that Councillor Bassinger, and also what Councillor Channer has said is really important. I actually, on that housing department, you know I'm a paper person, I do apologise from the climate places, I've put numbers. Actual numbers. Don't produce a report that we're all supposed to read without giving us the actual numbers and the information. So that's just something, and I apologise, Mr. Lee, we should have rang up to ask about the numbers. I know, but some of us don't have time, you know, and it's no excuse, but, you know, when I read this, I thought, hang on a minute, and I haven't had time to contact anybody, and I apologise to the officer who I maybe should have rung as well. But I certainly don't support this application. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Members, we have a seconded proposal. Councillor Fluker.
Just wanted to ask, Chairman, I just wanted to make some comments, and I feel as though I may well be speaking against the whole committee here, but I have been contacted from some families in Althorne, and I did actually some time ago serve on Althorne Parish Council, and it was a great pleasure to do so. And whilst I'm talking about the Parish Council, I did notice, Chairman, that they didn't actually object to the design of this proposal. But Chairman, you know, I'd just like to look at the social side of this, really, because affordable housing is usually sought by people who are on low incomes, and by that I mean from the possibility of gaining a large mortgage or something like that from a borrowing point of view, and these would include people like nurses, ambulance staff, carers, and other frontline services. We found this happened a lot in Barley Meadows and Blackwater Reach. The affordable housing there was massively oversubscribed. We all know how it works. It's offered to people in the village first, and then it just gradually permeates out. And these type of properties allow for families to stay together in one village. You know, it's not necessarily young people that are going to move into these. They could be older people. They could be anybody. You know, and it does create a lot of sort of new blood for a village. And we really need to look at these schemes, you know, quite clearly. This application has been said, you know, it said it provides 60% affordable units. and according to our own housing department, are much needed in the village. Now, Chairman, wherever this goes, I really do think that it might be wise for you, Chairman, to seek clarity over this, because clearly there is some kind of disparity between what members have gained as information as what the housing department have said. And I think, you know, I do know that there's a lot of people who are desperate for affordable housing in the district, and they've looked at this, and I'm sure that they're hoping for a better outcome than that I feel might happen tonight. But the scheme would make a positive contribution to the 0.1% shortfall in the 5-year housing land supply. I tried to work out what that means actually. 4.9% over 5 years at roughly 330 houses a year, and I sort of got to a figure. And I think this
Through you, Chairman, you're about a year out of date on now. In April, about 6 months, but 3.26 now.
Well, do you know, I was told that today, but I thought I read in here it was 4.9, and I was going to commend you. So we've got a massive shortfall. In other words, it's a lot worse than what I thought. So, Chairman, if this committee was mindful, Chairman, to support the officer's recommendation to approve, it would give 8 families a fabulous opportunity to get their own properties. And I say that, Chairman, because I don't think there's going to be many more opportunities coming forward. Tilted balance is a wonderful thing, and I guess I was as surprised as everybody else when I read the recommendation on this. But this is a professional opinion of the officers, and you know, at the end of the day, that has to be recognised, whether we agree with it or not. It's still a professional opinion. So, Chairman, I think based on that, I would find it hard, even with the differences of opinion about whether these properties are required or not in Althorne. I find this hard really to go against the officer's recommendation, and not least of all because it would allow for 8 low-income families to get on the housing ladder, however you expect, you know, however it happens. And if it doesn't come here, where's it going to come? You know, we know, let's be sensible, another 200 houses in the pipeline for Burnham, another 200 in the pipeline for Southminster. You know, I don't have any intelligence from around Mundon, but I guess that's similar. 1,000, are you allowed to talk? Oh, yes, thank you. The Haybridge, you know, they just, these are all rocking and rolling and coming forward, you know, and we're going to have to try and control this. And the only way we could control it is to try and get some developments, perhaps like this, and members will know that when we did the local development plan last time, pepper potting was always more favourable than putting 1,000 in Burnham, you know, spread the houses around the district. You know, that was always favourable. So, Chairman, you've already got a proposal on the table, and I've said I can't support it. And I'm so, I don't know if you can hear me whilst Councillor Channer and Councillor Stamp are having their own debate across the chamber. But I'll stop there and enjoy the support of my friend Councillor Morris.
I can hear you, Councillor Fluker, because you've had your mic.
We love, Chairman, we all love these debates and everything else and a bit of banter, but we've got to understand that we're in different times now, and these microphones pick up everything, and people are trying to listen right now on YouTube and all the other chat, probably TikTok as well. But,
Thank you. I did, Councillor Fluker. I'm going to go.
Can I just point of clarity? I just really I'm not going to apologise to Councillor Fluker for actually mouthing. He mentioned something about pepper potting. Now I understand it was the previous administration and the LDP who didn't allow the pepper potting. Now we won't have a cross-chamber debate.
No, we won't.
But that's why I was seeking clarity.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Jewett now, and then I'm going to give a final right to reply to the ward member, Councillor Bassinger, and then I'm going to go to a vote because we have gone on at length about this now.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't think I know enough about this application as it stands at the moment, and I think my vote will probably reflect that. But what I would like to say, if I can ask your indulgences, I'm absolutely horrified listening to the debate here tonight about whether people in villages need affordable housing or not. One thing that I have learned over my considerably less years in the council and council's voice is that a lot of young people in the villages want to remain in the villages. They don't want to move to the bright light. They don't want to go away from their families. They want to stay. We have been very neglectful in this council over the last few years in supplying villages, villages rather than small towns, bigger towns, in supplying small villages with housing for young people. I am well aware in my ward of all sorts of ways that that's been attempted by members of the public to get round. They split houses up, they turned down buildings into extra dwellings, they've done all sorts of different things. Please, as members, don't believe that the youngsters want to dash away from here. They do not. Many of them have got families, jobs, and other reasons to stay in the villages. We must, as members, recognise that. We must do something about it. I'm not saying this is the right application one way or the other, but that is something we must do. We must stop saying, oh, the kids all want to leave. The kids only want to leave because they can't afford to stay. And that is a very good reflection on us as the council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Bassinger now, and then members, please. And then
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would just like to say that again, you know, I believe people do want to stay probably in the rural areas close to their families, but sticking them in an area which is unsustainable, I don't think has any advantages at all. As far as work is concerned, travelling to hospitals, as Councillor Fluke has said, for nurses, I don't think that is an option whatsoever. There's nothing nearby. There's nothing. Getting to the station would be a nightmare for anybody. A nurse doesn't necessarily have a car, so therefore, you know, how would she get to work? It would just create huge problems. People also, you say people want to live in villages, of course they do, but then, you know, no one wants to be a farm worker. We're not farm workers, so there's nothing here for them. Oh, terrible. It's a fact. You know, young people want to go where there's life. They don't want to be stuck in areas where there's nothing. And this, in my opinion, is totally unsuitable. I don't need any clarity. This doesn't need to be deferred. I think we need to make an absolute stance here and refuse this application.
Thank you. I am now going to vote, members. So we have a proposal, which is that we go against the officer's recommendation and we refuse this application.
Recorded vote, please, Madam Chairman. Recorded vote.
Yes, I
Agree.
seconded. I have a seconder, Councillor Bassinger, and Councillor Stamp. I'm not quite sure who got in there first. Councillor Bassinger, I think. So, Burnham, recorded vote.
Thank you, Chairman. We're going to have a recorded vote, members, to refuse the application contrary to the officer.
Oh, sorry, bear with.
Through the Chairman, just as a point of good practice, should a third reason for review should be added in relation to lack of a signed Section 106 agreement.
Lack of a signed Section
Which is
106
just a good practice for determination of an application like this.
Madam Chairman, can I just check that actually the reasons of refusal will cover things like S1, S8, housing policy, I1, and from what we've heard about the transport strategy appearing to be Burnham on Sea, to do with transport, there's a policy there. So I think we need to ensure we do, and the D1, because Councillor Bassinger felt about the design impact and everything. So I just want assurances those sort of large span of policy numbers are contained within those reasons of refusal.
Through the Chairman, the reason for refusal will contain the standard suite of conditions that relate to issues such as design, sustainability and impact on the character of the area. Yes, thank you, Chairman.
And the transport, thank you.
Thank you. To vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We're going to take a recorded vote to refuse the application contrary to the officer's recommendation of approval for the reasons as outlined, impact on the character of the area, design, sustainability and the suite of issues that Mr. Lee has referenced. Members, I will call your names in alphabetical order. Can you state clearly for, against or abstain? Starting with Councillor Bassinger.
Against the application.
So that is for
No, you're
the
for,
proposal.
you're
Yeah,
for
sorry.
For the proposal.
I'll go either way.
I think we have 4 from Councillor Bassinger.
Okay, members. Councillor Bassinger is for the refusal. Thank you. Councillor Beale.
For.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Channer,
For.
Councillor Jewett, Councillor Fluker,
Come on, you.
Based on what the residents of Althorne told me today, against.
thank you. Councillor Helm, Councillor Hall,
Against.
Councillor Stamp.
For.
Thank you, members. That's 6 for the refusal, 2 against the refusal, and 2 abstentions. That's carried.
Members, thank you very much. That was a heated debate. So that brings us on to item 7, which is 21006. Of course, thank you very, very much, Councillor Jewett.
Chairman, just for
Enjoy the rest of
clarity,
your evening.
No, he's just for clarity. I'm taking him home, so take your time.
Moving forward, members, item 7, 2100682 full, Mundon Hall, Vicarage Lane, Mundon. There is a members' update for this, which I trust you have all seen. And the presenter is Ms Staplehurst again. So over to you, Ms Staplehurst, please.
Planning permission is sought for the construction of a covered cattle yard for the purposes of animal welfare. The development would cover the cattle pens and would have internal LED lighting hanging from the ridge of the roof. This is the location plan showing the site outlined in red and the area of the proposed cattle cover. The proposed block plan again showing the development in yellow. The proposed elevations. The proposed floor plans. Some photos of the site from ground level. And some aerial views of the whole site. It's not considered that the development would harm the character of the area or impact on neighbouring sites or highway safety, and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms Staplehurst. So just to clarify, there is already a cow shed in this place. It just doesn't have a roof on it. So this application is just to put a roof onto the cow shed. Councillor Boyce, then Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. As you see, I called this in, not because I've got any problems with it. I agree, but I believe that there were 1 or 2 issues that needed clarifying, and certainly lighting was one of them, which has been resolved or explained. The highway issue was that I had intelligence that movements were going to be, rather than on the holding, would be along the road. It's a very narrow lane. This isn't necessarily a good thing, but there I can see that there would be no way you could condition that because highway said no problem anyway. The other issue is, although there's reference to it in an informative or somewhere within the report, which I can't put my finger on at the moment, but which I think is a major consideration, and that is there doesn't seem to be a condition for the treatment of waste.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. Can I ask officers to come back on that before I go to Councillor Fluker, please? Thank you, Alex.
Yes, so the use is already established, and matters of waste in terms of some of the issues that have been raised are matter, more for the Environment Agency and for environmental health. In terms of this particular case, it is simply providing a shelter above the already established use.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor? Super.
Thank you, Chairman. And as I said, I'm quite happy with the recommendation.
Super. Thank you, Councillor Fluker, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I know a little bit about this business because I know where it morphed from, and you know, I know that there are several young contractors, people interested in farming who want to stay in the area, and they actually rent properties, I believe, around Tillingham because they can't get affordable ones. But Chairman, being an operator of livestock myself, I can see where
Members.
Chairman, it's the principle, and I know that you would agree with that, and you're welcome to come and see my Hebrideans any time. Chairman, this is a welfare issue. You know, I feel for Councillor Jewett sitting outside on his own. It looks to me like a pretty straightforward application. And that said, Chairman, I'd propose that we agree the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have several seconders. I'm not sure who we'd like to choose. We'll go for Councillor Helm. I feel, members, we may be able to agree this by assent. Am I right? Super. Thank you very much. So that brings us on to item 8. I have no other items of business that are urgent, you'll be pleased to hear. So at 21:12, I close this meeting. Thank you all very much and do drive safely. Thank you very much, officers.